about my slide cover. I usually create a new one each year as a template for all my presentations that I make, regardless of what I'm presenting on. But if you look at all these images, I wasn't purposely picking images to reflect our public art pieces downtown. I was choosing pictures that show vibrancy, diversity, people enjoying the downtown space. But as it turns out, all of them have some reflection of some of our public art in it. So I think that's kind of an interesting correlation. But as Liz said, I am Julie Metz. I'm the Downtown Development Director for the City of Goldsboro. For those of you that have followed Goldsboro, we've had some recent large public investments, particularly resulting in a transformation of our Center Street, our main corridor through downtown. But we've been spending the last couple of years, and this is it, Center Street, we've been spending the last couple of years trying to figure out ways on a smaller scale to extend that interest and that investment off of Center Street into other areas of our downtown. If you look at our vision statement, beautiful, historic, lively, and full of economic opportunity and gusto. We honor our past while developing diversity and vibrancy to create a cultural, arts, entertainment, and urban lifestyle center. So for us, we have a really large downtown for a city our size. It's very urban in its feel. And so we wanted to honor that, of course, by preserving our historic stock, but making it a little bit more modern and trendy and interesting, which to create diversity and make it vibrant. And so art, obviously, is a natural component to making that happen. So we started looking at different ways to add art elements to downtown. And the great thing about art, it has a large variety of price points and sizes, and really is only constrained by your imagination. We've done projects such as wind chimes and leased sculpture pieces, art alleys, murals, quote boards. But we wanted to look at spaces. We're just trying to make mundane spaces more interesting and vibrant. So we started to look at the ground, and here you see a crosswalk. We looked at two intersections off of Center Street, the main cross of Goldsboro, which is Center and Walnut Street. So we wanted to extend outward. So we started looking at these crosswalk murals. And this is one of the intersections we looked at. And so I did some research, I came up with some images, I took them over to our city manager's office and said, wouldn't this be a great way to make these spaces a little bit more interesting? And he really liked the idea as an inexpensive way to show some love in other areas. So we did some research, and I reached out to some friends at Chapel Hill and did some Google searches and found a city in San Diego, a nonprofit there, is doing a lot of crosswalk art. And so I reached out to them. They were very helpful in giving me some tidbits. But I also found that NCDOT, amazingly enough, frowns upon this kind of thing. So we were fortunate that the two streets, that were the two intersections that we were looking at, were mostly city-owned or maintained roads, except John Street is a state-maintained road, so we ended up having to take off two of our planned murals. I didn't even contact them. It wasn't worth it. We really didn't have the time. We wanted to get this project done in conjunction with an event. So we did a call for artists. I have a copy of it available for you to look at. Just hit the highlights of it. We mentioned that we sent it out. We did a national call, put it out on different art kind of nonprofit and statewide organizations. The street murals, we said in the very front, see Liz, I told you I'd make you happy. In the introduction, we tied it to our economic development strategy. We mentioned it in the intention. But we also wanted to make sure, based on the feedback that we got from these other organizations that had done similar things, we wanted to make sure the designs were very simple. Because we weren't committing, we did not promise that we'd maintain these. But we also wanted the flexibility to do so if we wanted to. So we wanted, if it's public art, they're not artists, they're not going to be able to replicate it if it's mixing colors and, this whole elaborate design. So we had to make sure that they were very simple, that they had no more than 5 colors, that they didn't mix colors, and we gave the dimensions and all that and what they could expect. And we said that they wanted to use a quality kind of paint that would last 3 to 5 years. We also, in the call for artists, obviously, we had a committee that helped select the pieces. We ended up having 37 entries. We were given a stipend of $1,000 per artist per design. We limited the artists. We told them we'd pick no more than 3 of the artworks per artist. And we specified 3 different brands and types of paint based on the feedback we've received from other communities and the paint store. And we made it a mandatory paint date, so they had to sign a contract that they would be on the day of the event to paint. And we opened up we blocked the streets from 10 a.m. until midnight that night. So, but they were painting from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. They had that amount of time to paint. So if they didn't think that they would be able to finish it, we asked them to bring volunteers to help. And I already covered that. But here's some of the selections that we received. Like I said, we received 37. The interesting thing, the first one we didn't pick because it was too elaborate. It would not be easy to replicate if we needed to maintain it. The same thing with the bottom one. The second one, interesting enough, when we showed it at the council retreat and the board meeting, and we tallied up the favorites by from those, and that was obviously the favorite. We're home to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, one of our biggest economic engines. The problem was, this is the great thing about having a multitude of people involved in the decision-making process. I had just hired a girl who's a spouse of a pilot, and she's like, Julie, you know, I love it. We all love it, obviously, but the problem is I have a feeling there might get some pushback of it being on a street and cars riding over the flag. Didn't even think about it, you know, and how that might not go over very well. So anyway, what we did, we gave this artist a couple more $1,000, and we found a downtown property owner that is a pilot, and he featured it on his wall, and so we gave her $3,000 to paint it on the wall. Here's some other pieces that were submitted. This is the artist in action, the day of the event. See how much color and vibrancy it adds? It's just amazing. But each piece was $1,000, so $6,000 for the 6 murals. And honestly, we probably didn't have to pay them that much. But we use artists a lot for free. It was kind of a nice way to give back to our local artists and celebrate them and support them. Here's pictures of the event. And here's a picture of the mural completed on the wall, which is right down from my office building. And the interesting thing about this is, just last week when I checked, put this presentation together, the mural was completed July 3rd. We took a picture and posted it on Facebook. As of last week, it had over 60,000 people it had reached, 200 comments, and over 550 shares. So, but what this does is, you know, this demonstrates that Goldsboro wants to be a community that celebrates the arts and wants to support artists. So the more times we do projects like this, the more artists come to us with ideas and they want to do them themselves. And so it's just been a great snowball effect, just little small projects throughout, and really letting them tell us what they want to do. Any questions for me?
One question.
Were your artists mostly local, or did you get some artists from outside of Goldsboro?
Well, we about half of them were from outside of Goldsboro. We had one from South Carolina. We had a couple from the western part of the state, Charlotte area.